So Jose Mourinho has spoken on the Serie A, some very harsh words, some tough words, but we're going to analyze it because Jose Mourinho is a person I respect a lot as a manager. I know I'm a Juventus fan and I probably shouldn't say that because obviously he's an Interista in Italy, but he's a great manager. He's a fascinating manager. He is the special one, I agree. And I want to go over what he said because it's very interesting, right? He said this: the quality of football in Italy has dropped. For me, there are no top players in Serie A. Wow. That is very harsh. No top players in Serie A? Okay, we'll dissect that. I respect the guy a lot, but if I'm being honest, Lautaro would not have started a game for my squad in 09-10, obviously being the Inter treble winning team. I think he is a good player, not a top player. First of all, I have no idea how accurate this source is. Whether he actually said this or not, I don't know. I'm trusting this Inter account, right? I don't know if this is a reliable one or if this source is a reliable source. I don't know. But still, I think this bit here is an interesting point to touch upon. The quality of football in Italy has dropped. For me, there are no top players. We can talk about the second bit as well, if it's true about Lautaro. We're going to go over everything because it's important. But as always, if you're new here, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Click that like button if you enjoyed. Share it to some friends. Comment below your thoughts. Do you agree with Jose Mourinho or do you think he's being harsh? And let's sort of go into it. First, I want to touch upon this second bit here about Lautaro, right? Would Lautaro have started a game in 09-10? Now, of course, that Inter treble winning team was very, very good. The attack was created, let's say the trident was Eto'o, who came off a treble win with Barcelona the season before. Diego Milito, who is an incredible, incredible striker, especially that season. When you talk about clutchness, that guy there was ridiculous. And then Gordon Pandev, who was a very underrated Serie A player, in my opinion. It was a 4-3-3, really intricate. Would Lautaro have started? I mean, in terms of like player for player, he's better than Pandev, but Pandev played out wide, so he was really important in that system that Mourinho had going. So I don't know if he would have started on the right. Down the middle, probably not. If I'm being honest, I don't think Lautaro would have started for that Inter winning team. It depends what version as well. But that Inter team was just so well drilled, you know. You couldn't drop Milito because Milito that season was super, super clutch. Of course, he scored a brace in the Champions League final. And as much as I hate to admit it again because it's Inter and I'm a Juventus fan, if you rewatch that Champions League final, which I did a few months ago, Milito's performance in that is one of the greatest individual performances we've seen in a big game ever, especially in Champions League history. He was everything, bro. He worked so hard on and off the ball. Those two goals that he really created from nothing. One especially, I don't remember if it was the first or the second, a lovely bit of dribbling after they were conceding so much pressure. I think it was the second goal, where Bayern were just mounting so much pressure on Inter, and he creates this giocata, this play out of nothing. And he won them that game. He also scored in the Coppa Italia final, I believe, that season, and scored the goal that won them the Scudetto. Eto'o, you can't drop Eto'o for how hard he works in the attack. He presses like a machine, but also because Eto'o is a better player than Lautaro Martinez. We're looking at one of the best strikers of all time. Top 2 African player for sure. For me, second. But I just think Eto'o's incredible. So player for player, I would start him over Pandev, but in that system, he probably wouldn't play. That doesn't mean, though, that Lautaro is not a top striker, because he is. If we look at his record, it is ridiculous. Look at this, 122 goals and 40 assists in 251 Serie A matches. Guys, not many strikers are that prolific, that consistently for a good 5-season stretch. Year upon year, you know Lautaro is going to bag you 20 goals minimum. 20 goals minimum. And I think an important thing to sort of remember, right, is, of course, we live in an age where stats are so important and 20 goals is considered a bad sort of season almost now for strikers. But it shouldn't be. 20 goals 20 years ago, of course, football changes, but if you scored 20 goals 20 years ago, you were a world-class striker. Guaranteed. Now it's like, I think our perception has been warped a little bit because of Messi and Ronaldo and how good they've been for so long, scoring 50, 60 goals a season. But of course, not everyone's like that. Haaland is sort of reaching those heights and Mbappe is sort of there as well. But I'm not comparing Lautaro to those two. But Lautaro bagging 20 league goals, and I'm talking about league, by the way. He's going to get you a good 30 in all comps pretty much guaranteed every single season. That's super impressive. I believe he was the capocannoniere in the Serie A in the 23-24 season when Inter won the Scudetto. The issue with Lautaro, right, unlike a lot of top world-class strikers, is in big games, I think he shies away. He shies away, bro. The Derby della Madonnina this season, the Derby d'Italia this season, the game against Napoli. In the big moments when the lights shine bright, he freezes. He freezes. That's the reality. Champions League finals as well. He's not there in both of them for Inter Milan. He scores when the pressure's not on him. And I like to troll him for that as well because obviously it's rival banter and whatnot. But he is still a top-level striker. There's no denying his let's say his resume in the Serie A is up there with some of the all-time best that I've seen, for sure. For sure, bro. Even like Maurizio Icardi, right? I think Icardi is a better player than Lautaro Martinez, right? I think he's a better striker, and I think context aside, you have to include, right? Context you actually have to include in this situation where Icardi was in a worse team than Lautaro, but was still putting up equal numbers. But the consistency is what sets Lautaro apart from a lot of strikers, how long he's been doing this for. That's why, for me, Lautaro Martinez is a world-class level striker. I do think he is the best striker in the Serie A. But so I think those words, if they are true from Mourinho, are a little bit harsh. I get what he's saying. In terms of the system, he probably wouldn't play. Of course, Inter fans, let me know how you feel about that. I doubt Inter fans, I don't know if they take him over. I think with Milito, right, he gave them a few seasons. But one really top season. But he didn't have longevity at Inter. He was at the top of football and he fell off real quick. Eto'o as well, few seasons. But again, he was aging. Lautaro's been there for like a good half a decade, you know, and he's not going to slow down. I think Lautaro's like 28, 29. Like, he's still got a good amount of time. I don't really see him ever leaving Inter. Maybe for like an Atletico Madrid, I could see him there, for example. But like, I see him at Inter for a long, long time. So Lautaro, yeah, I just wanted to touch upon that. Now, I think what is interesting, really, is going back to this quote, because the more important bit I want to talk about is here. Because this just refers to Lautaro. This here, the quality of football in Italy has dropped. For me, there are no top players in the Serie A. Now, of course, last night, Benfica beat Napoli 2-0. I didn't watch the game. I watched the Juventus Paphos game. So I have no idea how Napoli played. I'm not going to sit here and say Napoli were poor, Napoli were good, Napoli were unfortunate. I saw a few comments from Napoli fans, couple saying the refereeing was bad, couple just saying, look, Conte is what he is in Europe. And as much as I agree with that, Conte's record in Europe is absolutely abysmal. And it's so oxymoronic because he is probably the greatest league manager, I think, statistically, we've seen. Definitely that I've seen in my lifetime. I don't think I've seen a better league manager, someone so prolific and effective when it comes to league football, be so bad in Europe, right? Only one that I could really think of potentially is Wenger, but Wenger was better in Europe than Conte was. Wenger was, unfortunate, 20 minutes off from winning a Champions League final, and different context as well, lack of money, paying off the stadium. But still, Conte's not had a lot of money. But I'm digressing here. Benfica, who were very, very poor up until now in their season, they've had a poor season. Mourinho hasn't had a good record with Benfica. He's won a handful of games, beat Napoli, who are one of the favourites for the Scudetto, one of the best teams in Italy, with the same team that Napoli fielded against Juventus, where Napoli won pretty convincingly against us, unfortunately. But it was the same 11. No changes. I'm pretty sure there were no changes. Carbon copy, yes, you could say they were a little bit more tired, and I think Antonio Conte came out and said fatigue, red-tear kind of affects him. But at the end of the day, top-level teams are expected to play 2 games a week. They are. Especially in 2025, in the modern era, top-level teams are expected to compete at a high level in every single competition. All 3. The League, the Cup, and the Champions League, or the Europa League, or whatever the hell your team is in. The European equivalent. You're supposed to compete in those 3 equally well throughout the season. So, I can't really say it's fatigue. But yeah, that's not a good sign. But of course, I can hit you with, well, Atalanta, who are 12th in the Serie A, beat Chelsea, who are one of the best teams in England. A Chelsea team that beat Barcelona. Therefore, Atalanta are better than Barcelona. We can go round and round in circles with these sort of... But then you could say Liverpool beat Inter. Inter, the best team in Italy. Liverpool having a horror season. I mean, context as well. But Liverpool having a horror season so far, got the win at Inter. You know, we can keep going around and round in circles. It's kind of pointless because any team on any given day can beat anyone. We know this. This goes without saying. Bodo Glimt, I believe, beat Dortmund yesterday, but Juventus beat Bodo Glimt but drew to Dortmund. It doesn't make sense. No, because football often doesn't make sense. But the fact of the matter is, I don't think Mourinho is wrong when he says that the quality of football in the Serie A has dropped. However, there are no top players in the Serie A. This here, I can't really disagree with. I can't agree with, sorry. I strongly disagree with that point. When you talk about top players, you're talking about some of the best in the world in that position. Let's go through position for position. Goalkeeper, right? There's not much talent in Italy, but I will say that the best keeper for me in the league is Mike Maignan. Some might disagree. Some might say Svila. I think Svila, in terms of performances, is up there for sure. In terms of reliability and availability, he's there. But let's be real. Mike Maignan, a.k.a. Magic Mike, he's got that nickname for a reason. When he is in form, when he is healthy, he is easily one of the best goalkeepers in Europe. How many keepers can you name that are concretely better than Mike Maignan? Courtois, Alisson, Raya, Joan Garcia, Donnarumma for sure. That's 5. I can't really, off the top of my head, maybe there's 1 or 2 Oblak, but he's sort of aging as well. Mike Magnan's there. Those 5, I would say, are definitely better than him, but he can chat to anyone else. But even on his day, when Mike Maignan is healthy, look at the performances he's dropped this season. The games against Inter, for example. What a performance. Napoli, what a performance. The saves he makes. He's single-handedly keeping AC Milan in this title race, bro. If he was injured, like he's been so often in the last few years, if he wasn't in those games, even against Roma, bro, saving the penalty on Dybala, but if he wasn't in those games, Milan would have dropped a good 5, maybe more points. Minimum 5 points. And we would not be talking about a Milan in a Scudetto race, probably. So Mike Maignan, for me, is a top player. Right back. We're lacking a bit. I think Dumfries is great. Cambiaso has his ups and his downs. He was one this season. I think I can't really consider him to be elite level. I think with Allegri, the 23-24 season, he was, and he started with Motta as that as well. But we're lacking there. I'm not gonna lie to you. Centre backs, we got a few more. We got Bremer, we got Buongiorno, we got Bastoni, although Bastoni this season hasn't been incredible. I'd say those are like standout names, and there's some good players there as well. Left backs, Di Marco, Spinazzola. Not too many. Midfielders, Barella's top. McTominay is top, of course. Luca Modric, Kevin De Bruyne. Thuram is strong. Rabiot's having a good season, but would I consider... The thing is, a lot of these names, I don't know if I consider them top players. Even Thuram, yeah, I can't really consider him a top player. Concretely top players are McTominay, based off form, performances, what he's done. De Bruyne, he's still a top player. Modric, for sure. Nico Paz, for sure. Barella, I'll still have him in there. 100%. You could argue Çalhanoğlu in terms of the numbers, the consistency. I'm not the biggest fan of his, but if you include everything, he's in there. Then if we move a little bit further up the pitch, Dybala isn't fit enough to be considered that, I don't think. But when he is healthy, he's still a top player. Pulisic, I think he's a top player based on performances over the last few seasons. Super consistent. Milan's most reliable outlet up top. Rafa Leao when healthy. Thuram, Lautaro. Lukaku last season was top. Kenan, for sure. Kenan Yildiz. Dusan Vlahovic, you can make the argument for. Matthias Sule, you can make the argument for. There's a few, but like, in those names that I named a lot of like good players, right? You can't say that none of those guys are top players. There's a good amount that are top players. However, what I understand Mourinho's sort of getting at is the names I named aren't like, they're not really the best in the world in their position. We don't have a best in the world in the position. Do you know what I mean? Like, who... You could say Modric potentially in that 6. He's played as a 6 this season. But then people say Vitinha, Caicedo. So there's like rebuttals there. That's up for debate. I think Paz, in terms of an advanced midfielder, a number 10, I think probably he's been the best. I think he's been the best this season. I don't think he's the best 10. Like, I think Musiala, obviously he's injured right now. Bellingham, who's not been in the best of form this year. Cole Palmer, who's had a lot of injuries. Those guys are better than Paz. But performance-wise, Paz can easily be considered a top player. I think Kenan is one of the best left wingers in the world this season for sure. I can't name many better than him. There's not many I'd take over him. But I think we lack in terms of the brand ability. The biggest brand in the Serie A is probably still Paulo Dybala, the most famous, the most followed player in the league. In terms of like depth as well in those positions for top players, we don't have compared to a Premier League. And I think if you were to look at the best Serie A 11 right now, compare it to the Prem, big jump. Big difference. The Premier League wipes the floor. We did this on the Culture Show, my podcast with Alfredo. We got Tobes and Star Player on, where we tried to like see how many Serie A players we could get into the Premier 11. Looking back on it, I think we had Paz, because I got outvoted a lot. I'll be real. Paz got in, but then even like overall the guys put like Semenyo, because I think I got outvoted. I was the only one that voted Yildiz over Semenyo. It was 3-1. But Yildiz is better than Semenyo. But for me, Yildiz would go off the left. And I would have the different modes, but I would have Luca in the 6 over Caicedo. The different modes, okay? So it depends on the system we want to play. They're very different players. But that's 3. That's 3, bro. 3 out of 11. And I can't lie, the Modric Caicedo thing is like, we're pushing it there. It's realistically 2. It's sort of Paz or Modric you pick, realistically. That's low. If you look at that La Liga one, of course it's all going to be Real Madrid and Barca plus Julian Alvarez, probably. How many Serie A guys are getting in there? How many, bro? 1 or 2 maybe again? 2 pushing it. Bundesliga is pretty much Bayern's 11 plus maybe... it's Bayern's 11, probably. Ligue 1, we're looking at a couple Marseille boys and PSG. But what I'm saying is those leagues, I think, forming an 11 are stronger because Bayern Munich have a lot of talent. PSG have a lot of talent. There's not a team in the Serie A that has a lot of talent. There's a few talented players here and there. But like even Bologna. Bologna are a top 5-6 team at the minute, but they don't have any world-class players. They don't. Roma. They don't have any Roma have no world-class players. Dybala's not world-class anymore. Sule's quality, but he's not there yet. Kone's quality, but he's not there yet. The defense is strong. Sevilla's consistent, but he's not there yet. I like Wesley a lot. I like Ndika. That's about it. But they're not. None of them are world class. Lazio, they're not even the same team anymore. Atalanta are 12th at the minute, so I can't even put them in there. They got Lookman, who's top, but is he world class? No. Napoli, McTominay, but even then, there's still a rebuttal there where people don't want to call McTominay world-class, which I kind of understand their logic, but he's performing at a world-class level. KDB, of course, a world-class talent, no denying it. Injuries. Buongiorno, top defender. Spinazzola having a top season. But even then, it's hard to say those names, apart from De Bruyne, are world-class, despite the fact that some are having elite-level seasons. But what I'm getting at is the general consensus of football fans will look at McTominay. Probably not heard about him, not watched him consistently full. Come on, man. If you're saying McTominay's world-class, look at the level of your league. That's what people say to us. My rebuttal is McTominay's always been a good player. He was just underappreciated at Man U, sort of scapegoated, I believe. But he's just flourished in this Napoli system with Conte. But even then, I can't say McTominay is better than some of the other midfielders other leagues have to offer. The Vitinhas, the João Neveses, the Rices, the Pedris, the Bellinghams, these kind of guys in other leagues. I like McTominay rating, but he's not the same stature. If we come to AC Milan, as I said, Modric is world-class still for me. Rafa is a world-class talent, but injuries and consistency factors in. I can't say he's playing at a world-class level. Pulisic, I can't say for me, he's not world-class, but he's playing at an elite level. There's a lot of great players, but they're not world-class. That's what I think separates us from a lot of other leagues, is the lack of talent. And the top talents leave the Serie A. It's hard to keep on to them. And it comes down to financial stability in the league. It comes down to brand ability. It comes down to marketing. It comes down to everything that we're sort of trailing behind. And that's the sad thing, because we produce a lot of young talent, but a lot of the time they just go abroad. So it's hard to compete with the Premier League, the La Liga. So although Mourinho's words are harsh, and I don't agree with this bit, for me there are no top players, I do understand where he's coming at. I get where he's coming from. And a lot of people have this perception on the Serie A, and I get it. And that's bad. The fact that I understand their logic and their rationality is worrying. It's bad, bro. It's terrible. I think when it comes to the Serie A, even if we talk about the Scudetto race, right? It's very close and entertaining because it's close and it's unpredictable, but it's also because the relative level of the Serie A is low. And all those top 6, top 7, top 5, whatever you want to call it, are similar in levels. But then the gap between those and the real top teams in Europe are big. They're very big. There's not a single team in the Serie A that will go deep in the Champions League. Even Inter. This Inter team is not the same as the ones in the last few seasons. Obviously, I'd say they're the most likely, but I still think it's unlikely. But let me know in the comment section what you think. This was a little bit of a ramble, a little bit of a discussion, let's call it, on the situation of the Serie A right now. But of course, let me know in the comments what you think. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're so close to 20k subs. Like the video if you enjoyed, share it. And also comment below any video ideas you have that you want me to sort of go over. And I'll see you in the next one.